And there's one thing I'd just like to take up from what Richard said about rights. Like, one of the things that actually disturbs me about younger people is that they're talking about equal rights. Now, that's not what we wanted to do. What we wanted to do was create gay rights. And in my opinion, a lot of the young people have forgotten there's really a major difference between mainstream society and the sort of things that we did in the 70s and 80s. And I mean, it seems to me that there's been this coercion from mainstream society to turn a lot of younger gay people into de facto heterosexuals, and it disturbs me, actually.
And vice versa. I actually think if you look in Dolly, not that I do, I have to say, although, I might, but if you look in like Dolly, Cleo, Cosmo, any of those sorts of things, it's almost de rigueur now to hear people talk about, kissing your girlfriend, it's almost...
Even the whole Katy Perry thing.
Yes, I mean, I kissed a girl thing. What's that about? And I
it's
think
not very gay at all.
No, it's not very gay. And I find it's almost like they want dare I say, they want the pleasures of the flesh without worrying about what it actually means to be somebody who lives this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So
making a spectacle of it almost.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. How does that feel to you when you see things like that, for example, when you see the pseudo wannabe gays and lesbians, or as Brian's just said, the sense that perhaps young gay people are almost being, for want of a better word, heterosexualised or mainstream? How does that feel?
It's complicated. I mean, there are good and bad things. I think nothing too bad about, I don't know, I don't necessarily think being us and them all the time is that productive, but like it's nice to be like, for people to be inclusive, but at the same time, there is something a little, making a spectacle of certainly, and also normalising, of trying to normalise, gays into the wider society and trying to, I don't know, there are forces that work in that, and also it's a kind of false kind of progress in a way. This Katy Perry stuff, aren't we terribly, but it's not really.
No.
At all. It's still, it makes me a little uncomfortable.
I think that's what Brian might have been hinting at too, that false progress. I think, and I also think it's fascinating. I'm intrigued always and ever by the need for gays and lesbians to, in particular, I'm not necessarily excluding bis and trannies in this, but specifically with people who identify as gay and lesbian, I think that mainstreaming and that wanting only and ever for mainstream ideals. I personally struggle with that whole idea of like, the gay marriage things and the whole kid thing, it's almost
and that's expected or something.
Yes, so again, it's almost like a heterosexualisation, and I wonder, and I'm a bit like you in some of there's this old hippie in me that yearns for when people are going to kick butt and just think, look, we can develop alternatives. I like the idea of like rights for gays. I think there's got to still be something in that where our uniqueness is celebrated, and that's okay, and that we honour that uniqueness. Yeah.
One of my jokes is that when God created gay and lesbian souls, she didn't intend us to be de facto heterosexuals. No. We've got talents that we can use outside that should be recognised. I mean, I don't want to have kids. I've looked after kids professionally. I can look after my friends' kids. There's plenty of kids who need to be looked after. Who wants to get married? Like, part of the 70s for gays and lesbians was sort of looking at feminism and deciding that that the nuclear family was crap, all of those sorts of things. So, I mean, who wants to get married? Why bother? Ian and I have been together for over 25 years. Why would we want to get married now? I mean, what's the effing point?
I'd love to see rituals and ceremonies that are uniquely ours, and I would love to see some of us slipping into the heterosexual society, rather than vice versa. I sort of think like they're appropriating a lot of us, but and
I call it misappropriation.
Misappropriation, absolutely. And I think that's a shame, because one of the things I love about who we all are is our uniqueness and just what we add to the world. And I always despair when I hear people say, oh look, gays and lesbians who shouldn't be allowed to live. And I think, you think of you think the theatre that we wouldn't have, the wonderful changes in our legislation that need to be challenged because of people like you, and just the world, how grey the world would be without the shades of pink and rainbow, So in terms of where we're at today, and obviously seeing two men from very different age groups and things like that, Brian, what do you think it is that older gay men can learn from young gay guys like Richard?
Can you learn anything?
Well, this is interesting.
Probably to shut our mouths for a while and listen. One of the things that I'm notorious for is I'm really opinionated and I tend not to listen. And the other thing I think about mixing with younger people at times is it helps me stay young, for want of a better word. I mean, one of the things about being an old queen is the expectations that people have of me in this great world are just bizarre. Like, I don't understand what they're talking about half the time, because they're talking about their grandchildren, and some of them are still talking about their mortgages or their kids' mortgages or things like that, and I just have no connections with them whatsoever. So actually mixing with younger gay people, I think it's still something about identity. Like, I started identifying as camp when I was about 21 or 22, and homosexual when I was 15. And we're getting signals to wind up. So it sort of keeps your mind broad. Keeps my mind broad. Yeah.
And just quickly for you, what can you learn from older gay men?
Just context, I guess, of why we live in the world we do is because of people like Brian and people like you, I suppose, and everybody here, and not taking those rights for granted is really important. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. It's been wonderful chatting with you. Good luck with your show.
Thank
it's going to
you.
be great, and good luck with the rest of your activist life, my friend. I know it will not end here.
And many happy birthdays.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.